So you're 23 years old, you have hundreds of thousands of followers online. How much money do you make?
Right now, $3 million a year.
My name's Nathan Nazareth. I've been in dropshipping and e-commerce, digital marketing.
Move your body, move.
Cool, so before we start, Nathan, what is, I guess, the main goal you want to achieve with the stuff that we're going to walk through today?
Yeah, the main goal for me is mental performance and clarity. At the end of the day, I'm a business guy, so I want to improve my productivity so that I can be more efficient and my business can grow. But apart from that, I've grown up with sports my whole life, so I want to be athletic, I want to be functional, and of course, who wouldn't want a good physique, right?
Right. So, what we'll do today is analyze you did your blood test, so that's going to be the main thing we're going to use to create the game plan. We're going to analyze your testosterone levels and your blood work, your sleep quality, your daily routine and your exercise program, and then we're going to use that to create a custom game plan for you to be able to achieve peak performance in the business, but also in the gym. Sound good?
Perfect.
So let's start with your goals. What are your top goals at the moment in terms of, first of all, mental performance? You mentioned mental performance, so what are the main goals surrounding that topic right now?
Energy fluctuation, which I'd like to improve. So throughout the day, I find that I'm not always able to be 100% engaged and focused in the work that I'm doing, especially when, a lot of the work that I'm doing now daily is creative work, it's deep work, it's writing, it's, I'd say half of my day is more managerial. If you've heard of like the maker's manager's schedule, The first half of my day is maker's, second half is more managerial, so it's more phone calls and things like that. As far as the meetings and the managerial stuff go, like that's pretty straightforward. Most people can manage that even if their energy levels are fluctuating. But for me, it's more about the deep focused quality work. And I find that it's inconsistent, right? I don't have, a proper routine in place where I have set energy levels at certain times throughout the days to get the most difficult work done. And sometimes I'm finding myself slipping into fatigue and I'm seeing decreased performance on the quality work.
So the kind of like the pointers here is be able to have more consistent energy and be able to be sharper while in deep work. Now, in terms of physical performance, what would you say, like gym wise, physique wise? What would you say the goals are?
Yeah, I would say, I've been training on and off inconsistently for the past couple of years, and before that it was mostly sport-based training. I grew up playing soccer. That was my main sport, or football. And after that I got into the gym, so just lifting weights. I didn't really know what I was doing for, I'd say, the first year and a half, and now I'm maybe 3 years in, and over the past year or so I've seen some pretty substantial gains even from when we first started working together. And those gains have came in the form of strength, hypertrophy, and just overall, kind of filling out some of my muscles in my frame and making my physique look a little bit better.
Yes.
That being said, I'm pretty happy with my current size in terms of hypertrophy and how much muscle that I've actually put on. Also strength, but my strength could always be improved. And the main thing that I want to do right now is I want to cut down a little bit more fat and build a more aesthetic looking physique. So bring up some of the muscle parts that I feel could use a little bit more size, and then also tone down in some of the areas that I'm carrying a little bit more fat in, like in my midsection as well.
Cool. So, yes, you would say more strength to just get stronger?
Yeah, I'd say strength and specifically athletic functionality, right? I'm training boxing right now. I also love playing any kinds of sports and improving them. So right now I want to get better at tennis and also play some paddle while I'm out here in Dubai, which could help with tennis as well. So for those reasons, I want to improve my core stability, my athletic performance, and functionality as well.
Yeah, so simply said, just look better, have a more athletic physique, and be able to, instead of looking like a bulky guy,
Exactly.
like a bodybuilder, just be able to move and be athletic and functional.
Correct. Yeah, I think for me, what's important is to be well-rounded, to be healthy, to be able to take on any challenge that comes my way, not only in business, but also if I want to go out and play a sport. I don't want to be dying and out of shape and out of breath. So cardio-wise, I do want to do a little bit of training as well. And I think It's a bit more difficult this way, and maybe you can share your thoughts on that as well, because I don't have a clear goal of in terms of like I want one thing. I want to be versatile. I want to be, I want to be at peak performance in a range of different disciplines, cardio wise, strength wise, aesthetics wise, and also athletic performance wise. I don't need to be necessarily the best at anything, but I want to have an overall solid base in each of them. Now, if you were to ask me to rank them, I would probably say that right now what's most important for me would be to improve my aesthetics, to improve my overall look and physique. And then second would be the athletic functionality and performance.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Awesome. So in order for us to be able to kind of like, before we get into the blood work analysis, because you obviously we did a hormone test and we did a complete like Mayo panel with every important marker we need to look when it comes to like productivity, but overall health and longevity as well. But I want to hear more, obviously to give you guys some context, we worked together for like I think 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, it was late 2022, I believe.
Yeah. So a lot of things have changed until then. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of like give me some context on how the key pillars of your daily routine look like, right? So the main questions I want to ask here is sleep quality. You have the Oura Ring, but have you been tracking your sleep? Have you been consistent with that?
Yeah, I have the Oura Ring, and I'm sure many people might be in a similar situation where I just end up taking it off, forgetting where I put it, not always charging it. So I'm pretty inconsistent with my usage, and I should probably do better with that. But yeah, I mean, from the times that I have tracked my sleep pretty consistently, I was scoring somewhere in like the 60 to 80 range. Usually not much higher than 80. If I was lucky, I would be in the mid 80s. But usually, yeah, I'd say on average somewhere in the 70s. And the biggest thing for me that I noticed based on the stats, which maybe later I can also send you some screenshots as well, would be the timing and the REM or deep sleep. Those were usually kind of the red categories for me. And then everything else was pretty good. Like in terms of the time actually spent in bed, that's the one thing I say I try to optimize the most over the past 2 years. I think when we first started working together, I was in a much different position where I had just started to, gain a lot of rapid success with what I was doing in my career. And because of that, I was letting a lot of things slide. So some nights I was sleeping for 4 hours, and I was, blasting caffeine in the morning to get my work done. But nowadays, after, sustaining that level of success and growth in my business for a couple of years, the one thing that I've definitely done pretty well is I've made sure that, every night I'm going to be in bed for, at least 7 to 9 hours. Which for most people is a target that they're struggling to hit, and I'm glad that I've already overcame that, but there is definitely a few areas that need to be improved as well.
Obviously, yeah, so you said something interesting. You said while you were getting in that, like the initial rapid stages of success, you were too much in the day-to-day of the business. So I guess one could say that, I'm successful in making enough money to like do what I love doing. So why bother getting to the rabbit hole of optimizing all those different areas? I guess with what we're doing here today, why not just because you're already successful. So yeah, why bother going through the
Yeah, so that's an excellent question, and I think a couple of years ago I probably would have answered it differently, but I think I've realized that going through those periods of not optimizing your health, although you can do it and you can come out potentially even more successful, you're going to experience burnout. You're going to experience possibly a lot worse than burnout. For me, I actually went into a bit of a cycle at one point, probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, where I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore on the day-to-day. I was feeling worse than burnout. I was starting to feel depressed in my day-to-day life. And looking back on it, I've realized that a lot of those negative emotions and feelings that I had throughout that time period was because my health was poorly optimized, right? I wasn't eating well, I wasn't sleeping well, and pretty much all I was doing was working, but I had no clarity, no mental focus. I felt drained, I felt weak, I felt tired, and I couldn't sustain that. So I actually had to take, a few months where I did minimal work and I traveled and I enjoyed life a little bit more, and I got my sleep and I got sunlight, and I did all the things that had I maybe had been doing from the beginning, I wouldn't have had to go through that phase where I was impacted, where my business growth was suffering a little bit, and I almost felt like I had to restart, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and one common pattern that we've seen is kind of like push, go hard, 12, 15-hour days, and then you need to kind of like go through the period of not really working, having to take a break, traveling and stuff like the stuff that you just mentioned, instead of being able to just work an amount of hours that you can exert like your highest quality work for as long as possible without crashing, without burning out. So this is the main goal that we're, I guess, trying to achieve with the stuff that we're going to talk about. So yeah, going back to the sleep stuff, from what I can understand from the things that you told me is that it's inconsistent, right? So mainly what I care about is the consistency of the time you go to bed and the consistency of the time you wake up. So in terms of your sleep schedule, 1 to 10, if 1 is like completely random every day, 10 is like a soldier, every time I go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, where would you put it in the scale?
Yeah, I'd say right now it's at about a 6.5 or 7. It's a lot better than it has been in the past, but I know I still have a lot of improvements to make. One of the things that has made it very difficult for me over the past couple years is the fact that I travel a lot, right? I live in Dubai half the year, and then I also live at home in Canada part-time, and then each year, obviously, I like to travel. It's something that means a lot to me while I'm young, but, the one downside that I have found with traveling is the toll that it takes on my health and performance, because of the fact that, well, not only am I adjusting to new time zones and dealing with jet lag and fatigue, but I'm also having to reestablish a new routine in every new place that I'm in. So even if I travel somewhere for a month, it's going to take me at least a few days or possibly even a week to really get into that schedule, not only with the timing of sleep, but also with setting everything else up around me so that I can actually function and perform, so that I know where to get food, get groceries, get my meals done, and I kind of take care of some other things in my life so that I can focus.
Yeah, it can be hectic when you're traveling all the time. In terms of diet, talk to me about your diet right now.
Yeah, I think my diet has came a long way, and a lot of that has been from education and making the right decisions. You see, back when I was kind of first starting out, I just didn't really know what a good and healthy and optimized diet looked like for me and for my goals. And then over some time, I think it was through a lot of education, but also testing and experimentation that allowed me to make that progress to what it is today. And I think, during that period of time, it was like, I didn't know how my body would react or respond to certain foods, because my whole life I didn't really pay any attention to tracking that. I just ate whatever, my parents had cooked me growing up, and that was pretty much it. And I mean, thankfully, my mom was pretty health conscious, and she would always make good meals, and so I never had to worry about diet too much, and I stayed pretty much shredded year round. I played sports, like everything was good. And then all of a sudden, when I left the nest and I was 18 years old and I moved out from home, I didn't have my mom's cooking to rely on. I didn't have the sports that I was in full time anymore, because I was transitioning to business school and a new kind of area of my life. And because of that, I had to manage all this stuff on my own. And I think that's really where I started to fail, because I started to eat out. I started to just order food for convenience as much as possible. I wasn't really looking at the macronutrients or the micronutrients for that matter. And I was kind of just using any sort of food as fuel, but not understanding that not all food is made equal, if that makes sense. And so, nowadays I've learned a lot about how my body responds and reacts to different kinds of food. One thing that I like to do is I like to time my carbs around my workouts. So I know that carbs give me a lot of energy, and if I'm going to be having an intense workout, I'll either have my carbs, a couple hours before the workout, or I'll have them after the workout to replenish, the glycogen levels in my muscles and things like that. And then as far as protein goes, way back when I was probably still eating a lot of protein because of my mom's cooking, but after that I definitely wasn't. And so that's when I started putting on more fat and maybe my muscle was growing a little bit, but probably not as much as it could have had I been optimizing my protein as well. So nowadays I like to stick to a simple rule of trying to get about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And so right now in pounds, I'm about 185 pounds. So every day I try to eat as close to 185 pounds or grams, sorry, of protein as possible. And yeah, besides that, I try to drink about 8 to 10 cups of water. If I work out intensely, I'll have more. That's kind of the standard for water. But now I'm starting to learn about, you know, things on a deeper level. So again, not all water is created equally. You can't just go and drink water from the tap, as that probably has fluoride and things that are damaging to your body as well. Yeah. And also, you know, most water sources don't have electrolytes as well. And, you know, you can actually dehydrate yourself by drinking too much water that doesn't have any electrolytes. So I think I have a solid base with my diet, but now's where I'm trying to take things to the next level and make those further optimizations that will help me with performance and work.
Cool, cool. Okay, so if you were to rate your diet from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, yes, you just moved out of your parents' house and you're just eating ramen noodles and like whatever, you just eat food. And then 10 is like everything is optimized based on your blood work, everything is dialed in, like you have a private chef and everything. Where would you kind of...
I would say right now it's at about a 7, and it fluctuates, right? Over the last summer, I would have said maybe 8.5. I had a chef that was very health conscious. She, you know, knew a lot more about food, quite frankly, than I did. And so she was preparing my meals with me having minimal thought going into it. And I was noticing a lot of gains in the gym and also my performance increasing as well during that period. So diet's definitely something that I want to work on, not only raising that level, but also being more consistent, because I've found over the past 1.5 to 2 years, when I'm in periods where I'm eating a lot cleaner, a lot better, I'm performing a lot better across every aspect of my life, pretty much.
Cool, cool. So we'll talk about diet in a while. And last thing is, I guess, your exercise. Talk to me about how frequently you exercise. What do you do in terms of cardio? What do you do in terms of strength training? So talk to me about like a high level.
Yeah, so I'd say exercise is probably my best category on the list. If you were, you know, comparing sort of sleep, nutrition, exercise in terms of consistency, but also in terms of intensity. And for me, you know, I've like I said, I've grown up my whole life with sports. I've always been athletic to some degree. And there has been periods of time where I've fallen off and I've started gaining fat and I wasn't, you know, moving my body as much as I should have. But generally, if I look back on my life, it's been pretty solid throughout, you know, my 23 years of existence. And even in this past year, it's been really, really good. So I try to move my body every single day in one form or another. It just depends on what I'm currently focusing on. So right now, because I want to improve my aesthetics and my physique, I'm in the gym at least 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes even more. And this is doing usually upper lower splits. Sometimes I mix it up and go a little bit heavier on the upper body, to be honest, because I want to build, you know, different muscles a little bit more there. Yeah. And outside of that, the other days of the week, I'll be going for a jog. I will be playing sports. I'll be doing boxing. And if there's a day where I find I don't move my body at all, which is pretty rare, I'll usually go for a walk or maybe even a light jog. Just do something, maybe even get on the floor and do some stretching. Because for me, it's not even so about the fact that I want to make improvements athletically, but it's about the fact that if I don't move my body, and I know because I've experimented with it over the past couple of years, my work performance is going down. I can't focus. I'm not clear. So every day it's important for me that I do at least something, and I've been pretty consistent with that over the past year or two.
Nice. Exercise looks definitely good. So let's jump into the blood work analysis. So those here, as you can see, is I've made a table with like your current markers, the current levels, and where the reference ranges are. Obviously, as you can see, the reference, let's start with that. The reference is not the optimal.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, let's go to testosterone levels. We're going to talk about testosterone at the end, I know it's probably one of the main things people want to see, testosterone levels, was Nathan, testosterone levels. But you can see that it's 500 to 750 nanograms per deciliter. This here is the testosterone, the way they measure that, the way they come up with this reference range, is that they take people that are 18 to 19 years old all the way up to 70 years old, and they come up with the averages of all of those different people.
Right.
So you're comparing your levels with somebody which is 65, 70 years old.
Who isn't necessarily a peak performer.
Exactly. And so also testosterone levels have been dropping 1% each year on average since 1987.
Wow.
So this is like a 40% drop over the last 40 years.
Yeah.
So you can see, and by the way, the average body weight of a male back in the 70s would be like 170 pounds. If you were 200 pounds back then, you would be considered very overweight. However, today, the average is almost 200 pounds. So you can see that what's the reference range is not really the optimal, because the reference range, the averages, are constructed upon what's the average in society today.
Yeah.
And society is getting unhealthier and unhealthier each year. So we shouldn't be looking at the reference ranges, we should be looking at the optimal ranges, right? So that's kind of like to preface this. So we can see here that the vitamin B12 levels are double what they should be at the higher end of the spectrum. And the main reason for that is that you're taking a vitamin B complex, right?
No, I'm not actually.
You're not taking that?
No.
So prior to doing the test, so then the main cause is, because I saw you showed me the vitamin B complex, so that is like my main.
Is that a vitamin B complex?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I am taking a vitamin B complex then.
Yeah.
See, I don't even fully know my supplement stack. That's an issue.
Yeah, so this is obviously the main thing is that vitamin B is a marker that, vitamin B12 specifically, is a marker that shows us if there is inflammation in the liver or in the stomach or in the gut. And so when you have so high vitamin B12 levels, it kind of skews the data, and we cannot really understand if there is need for further testing.
Right.
It's not a big of an issue, but if you're doing that for a long period of time, it can be an issue.
So I should lay off of the B12?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
So, yeah, it can cause liver inflammation, or this can be a sign of you having liver inflammation, which is less likely. The more likely, as you can see with my comments, is that you're just taking a lot of vitamin B12 from both your supplements,
Right.
but also you're eating a lot of steak, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably the case. So you
And
don't really need to
having
take.
this excessively high level, can that also lead to fatigue or things
Not
like
really,
that?
but over time it can lead to other issues.
Okay.
So it's not really a problem that will cause damage right now,
Yeah.
but over time it can actually cause damage. So yeah, that's something to like a pretty easy solution. I'm going to talk about the exact game plan afterwards. I'll go over the results quickly. Next thing is vitamin D. Now, usually it's not that big of a deal when a marker is like right around the lower end of the spectrum, or it's not really dialed in. But with vitamin D levels, because of the importance it has in testosterone levels and hormone function and immunity, it's something that we do, because you see, like, practically you're in the reference range.
Yeah.
But this is something that if you were to increase that, you would see drastic increases in testosterone levels, in overall mental performance.
And the optimal range is probably on the higher end of the reference, if not even higher,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so even if you're like, unless you're in the sun for the majority of the day, you need to be taking vitamin D3 supplements.
Okay.
So again, vitamin D is more of a pro-hormone than of an actual vitamin. It's very heavily involved in your hormone, in your endocrine system. So this is why I've put it in the top. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
AST, ALT, those are liver enzymes. As we can see, those are slightly over the reference range, which means that there must be either dehydration. We're going to talk about this plastic situation in a minute. But long story short, connecting this with your ferritin, which is like essentially your iron, B12, transferrin saturation, and direct bilirubin, it can potentially indicate slight liver inflammation. So this is something like, because of how important liver function is for longevity, like this is your main powerhouse of your blood sugar levels, of your like the detoxification of the body. This is something that I would really want to see drop down within the range. Even if it's slightly elevated, it's not that big of a deal. I would like to see that being optimized. Mainly because we're talking about optimizing stuff here.
So you think if we were to bring the B12 levels down, for example, then those might correct themselves, or would there be potentially more that goes into that?
Yeah, there's more that goes into that. I'm going to talk about this. HDL levels. So this is essentially the good cholesterol that signals your body, that tells your body how it can properly use cholesterol and funnel it to the liver. Ideally, if you want to optimize this, you want to be like over, in my opinion, over 75.
Okay.
And you're like 54. This is very common because it's hard to get enough HDL, enough omega-3s from your diet, because you have to eat more like fatty fish, like avocado, more olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Like, I don't know if you're taking fish oils, but it's probably not enough. And this can also help with hormone levels. LDL cholesterol. This is good. The reason it's good, like, it's right over the reference range, the higher end of the reference range, but it doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because we tested a lipoprotein little a, which is awesome, 25, and ApoB. So a big misconception with LDL cholesterol, people call HDL the good cholesterol and LDL the bad cholesterol, but it's kind of irrelevant. The reason for that is because LDL is a type of lipoprotein. So let's imagine your blood vessels, your vascular system like a highway, right? The cholesterol molecules need to be, like, think about the cholesterol like pedestrians. You don't want pedestrians to be walking around the highway. It's going to cause a car crash. They need to be packaged into something to be delivered to their destination. That something is the lipoproteins, which is LDL. Like, L stands for lipoprotein.
Okay.
So it's like the cars, the type of cars. So there is a specific type of car, like a specific brand of car, which is really problematic because it leaves around, as it like goes to the destination, as it travels the pedestrians to the destination, it leaves, it just leaves some pedestrians on the side, and this causes a blockage of the arteries. Okay. This is one part of this family of lipoproteins is LDL, but the biggest, like the whole family that LDL is a part of is ApoB. Okay, and provided that your ApoB levels are very healthy and very low, it's irrelevant. So it's not it's not a major issue. If you were to even increase LDL cholesterol, which will also help with testosterone levels, it's not a problem. Just we have tested for those main two heart risk factors. So, yeah, what are your questions here? Because it's kind of like it might sound a bit abstract.
Yeah. I don't know. So when LDL goes up, does that mean HDL would go down necessarily, or do they have any kind of relationship with each other?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So you have total cholesterol, which is essentially those two combined. So if LDL goes up, the total cholesterol will go up, which is kind of irrelevant again. Yeah. HDL cholesterol, if it goes up, then essentially your body will know better how to utilize cholesterol for the functions, for the benefits, right? So it's like the more heart healthy cholesterol is HDL, and you want to usually have as much of it as possible. Like 80 would be really optimal, even 100. Like you can see people that are using steroids that they try their best to get their HDL as high as possible, because then they minimize. It's one of the way of you minimizing the risk of heart disease. So.
Right. Yeah, so I'm pretty inconsistent with my omega-3s. I have them. I've just been inconsistent with taking them because, I don't know, I've just, haven't really seen any direct benefit from taking them. But now that I'm seeing this and these levels are low, it's probably going to incentivize me to take them more frequently. It's
not like you're going to take the fish oils and you're going to be like, I feel the surge of the fish oil. It's more so like an indirect benefit.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna like everything like in terms of cholesterol, it has a lot to do with liver function. It has a lot to do with testosterone levels, which we're gonna reconvene in like a minute or two. This is kind of irrelevant. Total cholesterol, I just went over this. Triglycerides are low, which is awesome. TSH, again, within the optimal range. So again, TSH is it indicates thyroid function. So it's like right in the middle, which means that like it's a variable, it's a box that is checked, because a lot of the time, if it's under the reference range, this can cause low testosterone, this can cause fatigue, weight gain, or like your metabolism is not really going to work well. So
if I was trying to optimize the thyroid, would I want to move up or down, or pretty much stay exactly?
Okay. You're good. So let's go to the immune function. As you see here, neutrophils are below baseline. Essentially, this indicates potential immune So this is your blood count, your immune panel. It shows your immune system. Those are cells that are part of your immune system. And as we can see here, since this is lower, this potentially indicates immune activation or reaction to something, and also connected with the high inflammation markers, since inflammation means, essentially inflammation is when your immune system is activated excessively without any real reason. Now this, because it's nuanced, this can either mean that you're training too hard, which is less likely the case, or that you probably were consuming things that were inflaming your immune system. Like if you eat a lot of seed oils or a lot of processed sugars, this is inflammation.
Right.
Like if you have been used to eating a very clean diet, and you all of a sudden like disrupt your circadian clock and you start eating shit for like a week or two, you are going to experience inflammation, and this will weaken your immune system, which will cause you to get sick. I don't know if you like when you're traveling and when you're eating random things, you tend to get sick. Most people do that. It's because of this.
Okay.
So this shows clear activation of the immune system, as well as this. Like this is slightly over the range, but again, it shows a slight inflammation. So that this means that you need to reduce inflammation, pretty much.
Could this mean that I was also potentially a little bit sick when I did the test?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you feel like you were sick?
I don't know. You see, I feel like nowadays it's kind of difficult for me to tell when I have a cold. Obviously, if I were to catch a flu or something worse, I would know. But when I have a cold, I think because I'm generally healthy otherwise, I maybe feel a little tickle in my throat, or I sneeze a little bit more often, but it doesn't really impact me too much on a day-to-day, besides maybe feeling just generally a bit weaker, slower, and more tired. So I think there's a possibility that when I took the test, I was a little under the weather.
Yes, and this is why I asked you about the sleep tracking, because you can kind of see, like for example, there is something that is called the HRV. And HRV is essentially your heart's response to stress. Typically, one of the reasons that HRV gets affected and it lowers is when your immune system is when you're before getting sick, or when you're just too inflamed. And if you could have gotten this data as well, this could be another dot we could connect and see, oh yeah, it's probably because you were kind of sick. But what I mainly mean here is do a better job at not inflaming your body.
Right.
Again, creatinine. This indicates kidney function. The main pointer here, a lot of people that train and a lot of bodybuilders have high creatinine levels. This, as I have commented here, most likely due to dehydration. I messaged you after the test, and I asked you if you were hydrated, and you said yes. And then I'm like, did you really? And I asked, how long before the test did you drink water? And you're like, right before the test. So that's probably a good indicator that you were dehydrated. So nothing really to worry about, because this, again, gets affected with weight training and stuff. This here. So, ferritin. This also coincides with vitamin B12. This is the level of ferritin, the level of ferritin in the blood reflects the total amount of iron stored in the body. So this is your main, the main form of storage of iron in the body.
And that's high or low?
Yeah, it's high.
So I have too much iron, basically.
Yes, yes. If your ferritin was also high, combined with the elevated transferrin saturation, which we can see below, this strengthens the possibility of iron overload or inflammation. So if we connect the dots, we see a lot of markers that indicate slight inflammation, right? And if ferritin is within the normal, but transferrin saturation is high, it could indicate early stages of iron overload or that the body is absorbing more iron than what it needs to absorb. Definitely not a good thing to have. You see a lot of cases with people that have excess ferritin. The doctor tells them to donate blood or do, what is it called? The thing that you just remove blood and you just dump it. Yeah, so it's not alarmingly high, but you can easily get it down by just removing vitamin B12 or not like reducing the iron overload from your diet, which is nothing crazy.
Okay.
Transferrin saturation, it reflects how much of the transport capacity for iron is being used for each one of your blood cells. Chronic inflammation can affect iron metabolism and result in altered transferrin saturation levels. Now, elevated transferrin saturation in your case could signal iron overload or increased absorption, potentially due to genetic factors or hereditary. This is less likely the case, and potential liver conditions, as the liver plays a role in iron metabolism. Less likely. This is, I think, the case for you. Excessive iron supplementation or frequent iron infusions can elevate transferrin saturation. And prolonged high levels can lead to oxidative stress and tissue damage due to free iron circulating in the bloodstream. So I think that the case for you right now is that because, I don't know when was the last time you did a blood test, but if this has been going on for a while, this can cause oxidative stress, which is inflammation. And we can see that this is being picked up. We don't know exactly 100% if the iron is causing this, but there is a level of inflammation, and we can do things to fix that. This is a dehydration marker. So your specific gravity, like this is your urine sample, it was a bit on the high end of the spectrum, which means that you were potentially dehydrated, not big of a deal. And then we have this, which suggests that there could be an issue with liver function or bile excretion. Again, it indicates conditions like bile duct obstruction, liver inflammation, or other hepatic issues. So every single marker kind of points us to the same direction. So this is all I had to say for the liver health, kidney health, vitamin deficiencies, vitamin D, immune system. Before we get into the hormone stuff, the juicy stuff, is there anything else you want to ask about the...
No, not really. I guess, so based on all that information there, what's sort of the lowest hanging fruit that I could attack in terms of kind of improving some of those markers?
Yeah. So basically it's going to be diet mainly, sleep quality, and supplementation.
Okay.
And then obviously the other ones are going to be for testosterone levels and hormone function. But yeah, I'm gonna get to this. FSH. This triggers your testicles to produce more testosterone. As you can see, it's on the lower end of the spectrum. So definitely need to increase that, because if you have more FSH, then your testes get a bigger signal that they need to produce more testosterone. You have more testosterone.
Right.
LH, the same thing. It's again on the middle to lower end of the spectrum. We need to improve that. Total testosterone is...
And how do we improve those two? Generally,
Sure.
what are the... Okay, you're going to get into it.
Yeah. And total testosterone, 667 on the lower end of the spectrum. Like within the optimal ranges, which for me would be as close to 4 digits as possible. Like you can never, unless you have a severe heart condition, you can never go wrong with maximizing testosterone levels. They're super important for confidence, being able to like, especially when you're at your position and you have to be like super sharp when making decisions under stress and chaos. Testosterone is super important for that. Be able to be like sharp, mental performance, confident, and be able to take risks. One of the common things that people with high testosterone have is that they're more eager with their risk taking. Like it kind of quiets down the part of the brain that is responsible for fear and anxiety and like stress. So it's really good for your heart as well, because it lowers cortisol levels. Yeah. What do you think about the levels, your levels? Are they better than what you were expecting? Worse than what you were expecting, or?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm satisfied with everything. We just obviously have a lot of work to do in terms of what we could improve. But I guess the reason why I'm satisfied is because like there's nothing sort of abnormal or extremely shocking that like would require immediate action. It's more so that, you know, a collection of small things that I'm doing could be improved, which could lead to much better results here. But there's nothing like overly alarming, which is good.
It's more so about optimizing, you know.
Yeah.
So we're not really taking the approach of yeah, you're healthy, because if you see those results besides the ferritin levels and the vitamin B12, like you're pretty healthy. So if you go to a doctor, I'm not saying that all doctors have the same approach, but most doctors, with the way and if you read the book Outlive by Peter Attia, he clearly states that medicine is made, like the main approach of medicine is to
Keep you alive.
yeah, but also it's more reactive
Right.
rather than proactive.
Yeah.
So it's not really from a health standpoint you're good. We're mainly talking about how to optimize,
Yeah.
right? So it's a completely different ball game.
Okay.
So let's go to what we can do to optimize your markers. The biggest lever you can pull is going to be sleep, particularly 9 hours in bed with 8 hours of total sleep. You can track this. 25 to 30% is REM sleep, extremely crucial for testosterone levels. You have the biggest spike in testosterone production across the whole 24-hour cycle in REM sleep, and 25 to 30% deep sleep. So that's like the recipe of how optimal sleep should look like. Now to get there, we need to follow something called the 80 to 90% sleep schedule, which means for 80 to 90% of the time, you just follow the same sleep schedule. Now, you might be thinking that I'm traveling, I have like to network with people, I have to go to dinners, obviously I'm in Dubai, meet a lot of people, so how do I do that while also working, while also going out, and while also kind of living my life? You have to figure out a daily schedule that leaves you enough wiggle room to do your health routines, like the gym, to eat your meals, to work, but also do your evening kind of, like whatever it is that you want to do. That way, it doesn't really matter if you go to bed at 1, 2, or 3 a.m. or 10 p.m. It matters that you're consistent with it. And there might be days that you're done with work or with your daily life earlier than this expected time. This absolutely doesn't mean that you go to bed earlier because you're done earlier with your day. You need to find a time that allows you enough wiggle room and stick to that for 80 to 90% of the time. Because you said something before about when you travel, it takes you like at least a couple of days to get back into the routine and feeling good. And this makes complete sense because it takes around 2 to 3 days for your circadian clock to connect the dots and understand when to produce the right hormones and neurochemicals to make you feel how you should in the morning and sleep at night. So what you need to do is simply 80 to 90% sleep schedule. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable. I think it's a fix that shouldn't be too difficult to make. I got to get back on using my Oura Ring more consistently so I can track that better.
Yeah. So next thing, tailored diet, which means that you need to be eating based on the markers. To increase HDL, include fat sources like avocado, extra virgin olive oil, olives, wild-caught salmon, and obviously supplementation. Those are generally some of the foods that have the highest quantity of omega-3s, and eating them, including them in your daily diet, will increase your HDL levels. So it's pretty simple to do. Just make sure to include as much as possible. Avocado is really good. So do you think you'll be able to pull that off?
Yeah, for sure.
To increase test levels, diet-wise, include foods like raw ginger, like testicular antioxidant. Raw honey increases the signals to the testes to produce more testosterone. Dates, this has a lot of boron, which is anti-SHBG. Raw onions increases the production of testicular enzymes, steroid enzymes in your testicles. Cocoa, the same as raw onions. Raw milk, really good source of cholesterol and healthy fats for increased testosterone production. Eggs increase the steroid enzymes. Oysters, really high in minerals, really high in zinc. So again, increase the free testosterone. So those are generally, I'll send you over everything after this. So yeah, that you can like, I would pick like 3 of them a day and just eat them. Dates are super high in calories as well, or in carbs, so that you can eat them like either intra-workout, pre-workout, post-workout. You can like add them on the side of your meals. But yeah, that's diet-wise. Any questions around diet?
No, I think that that makes sense. So basically for diet, like could keep doing what I'm doing, but just add in some of these foods and they're gonna help with these things, or?
Yes, definitely. In terms of iron, I would also, one thing that I would note is to eat more, like for your proteins, eat more chicken and fish as well instead of eating steak every day.
Okay.
Like I would cut steak to like 2 to 3 times a week, so that you can get your iron levels a bit lower. But also, like I have some implementations that decrease ferritin, which would help as well. So you don't really need to go crazy about your diet, but not eating steak every single day, twice a day is probably not going to be a good move from here. Let's go to cardio. Your cardio, I have the feeling that you're approaching your cardio with kind of like a play by the ear kind of approach. You need to be a bit more regimented if you want to optimize your cardiovascular health. The reason I say this is because in order for testosterone to go to your like where it needs to go and make you feel how you should feel, like confidence, like energy, muscle gains, or whatever it is, it has to go from your bloodstream to the androgen receptors, right? There's like specific parking spots that testosterone goes and binds to. Having a stronger heart will indirectly help you have more benefits of testosterone without directly increasing testosterone, because you need blood flow for testosterone to travel and go to the androgen receptors and make you actually exert the benefits.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So while a lot of people that are thinking about increasing testosterone levels are thinking that I need to do a lot of weightlifting, I need to gain muscle, and kind of skip cardio because it's like boring, or I don't want to be skinny, and I don't want to lose muscle. It actually helps you gain muscle if you do it correctly because of the testosterone thing. So the game plan here, or at least the baseline that you should be aiming for, is 3 hours of zone 2 cardio per week and 1 session of VO2 max training per week. Now, do you know what zone 2 cardio is?
Yeah, it's cardio at a lower intensity, right? So your heart rate's going to be lower, like you're not exerting yourself 100%, but you're...
Yeah, it's like 60 to 70%.
Like a light jog, yeah.
It's like 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. I would say that like the easiest way to figure out how to do zone 2 cardio is you want to be at a pace where you can easily, like you can maintain a conversation, but not very comfortably.
Yeah.
The baseline is if you go a bit stronger, a bit faster than what you're doing, you're not going to be able to maintain a conversation. You want to be like able to maintain a conversation, but not really comfortably. So that's zone 2.
Okay.
VO2 max training. This is like a perfect marker. If you go and do a VO2 max test with like the wires and the mask and everything, it's like a very accurate indicator of how long you're going to live for. VO2 max is how fast can your lungs take oxygen from the atmosphere and pull it, take it in your lungs, in your bloodstream, and then utilize it in your muscle cells for energy and power. The faster, like essentially the VO2 max metric shows you how fast can your body do that. The faster you can do that, the longer you're going to live.
Right.
And the more energy you're going to be able to use. So the way you train, the session of VO2 max training is 4 minutes, balls to the wall, like all out 100%, followed by 4 minutes of rest. You do nothing, and then you repeat that for 4 times. You ideally for that you want to do like the assault bike, when you're using both your legs and arms. 4 minutes all out, 4 minutes rest, repeat 4 times, once a week.
It's pretty hard to do for 4 minutes straight though.
It is. Yeah, you're probably gonna want to puke for the first time.
Yeah.
but it's really super powerful. You can do sprints as well. The
Okay.
reason I don't want to recommend sprints is because it can be quite tricky, and if you're not really seasoned with sprinting, it's easy to injure yourself, to pull a hamstring.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, I don't think anybody can really sprint for 4 minutes straight, you know what I mean? So at a certain point, like, you'd just be battling fatigue and still pushing as hard as you
Exactly. The point is, like, like, I'm not talking about 100% of your heart rate.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 100% of the effort that you can put at this specific moment,
Okay.
which drops.
can. Yeah.
You're gonna start from really hard to like kind of dying, but
Yeah.
it's still 100. You're 100%. That's the
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what are your thoughts on the cardio regimen, the cardio protocol?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good baseline. I could pretty easily implement that into what I'm already doing, and then maybe stack a little bit more on top of it, just in the form of sports and kind of other things.
Cool. So let's go to this interesting part. So, as we can see, the endocrine disruptors. Those are chemicals that enter in your bloodstream and block either the androgen receptors or interfere with your hormones. So, first things first, we need to stop using the plastic water bottles. Plastic food containers, even if you're getting meal prep, that's why I said you need to get a private chef, because you just get the groceries and then they just cook the meals and put them in the glass Tupperware so that you can eat it later. So absolutely removing plastic from your diet and from your daily life is one of the easiest ways to improve your health and improve your testosterone levels. Another thing is putting fragrances on your skin. Just put that on your clothes
Okay.
instead of your skin, because a lot of chemicals, a lot of endocrine disruptors that interfere with your hormones. Conventional deodorant. I'm gonna provide you with all the links with like what deodorant to use that hasn't got any bad chemicals or any endocrine disruptors or any aluminum. Conventional shampoo or body wash, a lot of chemicals, and cooking with non-stick pans. Again, if we take the cancer-causing chemicals like the forever chemicals, PFOA, it also affects testosterone levels. So it is very unhealthy to cook with non-stick pans, but even if we only focus on testosterone, again, not good. So you can replace with cast iron pans or stainless. Stainless steel is easier than cast iron. This is really heavy, so if you want to like take it from place to place, it's going to be a bit more of a pain. But stainless steel is pretty easy to find, and you can use that to cook. Next thing is stopping the B complex. There's no real reason why you should be taking vitamin B. At least there are specific vitamin Bs that you can take, like vitamin B1 that helps with REM sleep. But the B complex, because it has vitamin B12, I would stop taking that.
Okay.
Alcohol. Walk me through your alcohol consumption.
I would say, like, as of lately, it's been a lot more minimal than in the past. Really, there is no set schedule for how much I'm consuming alcohol. I would say if I were to take the average of over the last year, so the last 12 months, over the last 12 months, if I were to put an average on it, maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks. And it varies. I mean, sometimes it could be 1 to 2 drinks just at dinner kind of thing. And then I'd say maybe around once a month, a little bit more than that. So maybe 4 to 6 or potentially even a little bit more. But yeah, pretty rarely these days am I having excessive alcohol use. I'd say like once every couple of weeks, it's more likely that I'll just have like a drink or 2 at dinner kind of thing.
Okay, so that's like the less, the better, but that's not a big concern at the moment. Unless if you like go balls to the wall, but you just told me that it's like a couple of drinks, so it's not a big issue. Stress management. This is super important for not only being able to be present and sharp and present on your task at hand when you're working, but most importantly for sleep quality and testosterone levels. If you're able to manage stress, as a result, you're going to be able to get deeper sleep and more REM sleep. Because your nervous system is the main thing that kind of indicates how you feel, your like how triggered or how relaxed and calm you are. There is like the fight or flight, which is adrenaline, cortisol, go, 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 sales goals, like decisions. And there's like the rest and digest, which is I want to wind down, fall asleep. Us entrepreneurs, we tend to be more fight or flight driven because like you just are running all day. We had to film the video, then we have to come here, then you have to go to a meeting, and you have to do all those different things. Like you're under chaos a lot of the time. So this tends to trigger your fight or flight more, which will impact testosterone levels. Because it will also impact REM sleep. You will wake up more frequently throughout the night. It's not going to be as restful. So the things that you're going to be able to, you want to do to optimize your nervous system is things like HRV breathing. It's a specific form of breathing that you kind of train your heart to increase your HRV. And as a result, you respond better to stressors. Box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold. This triggers your rest and digest. As a result, better sleep. Cold showers. This will make you more resilient under high adrenaline situations, but also increase your HRV over time. So that generally the rule of thumb is the higher your HRV, the better you respond to stress. And the more calm you're going to be under chaos, which is something that you want.
What is HRV breathing again? Is that just like
No.
hyperventilation?
No. HRV breathing is a specific type of breathing that essentially trains your heart how to breathe. So essentially, think about the camera that we're using to film the video. This is your nervous system, right? It has, if you want to take good pictures, like it has the auto mode, but if you want to take really good pictures, you need to learn how to use the buttons and everything, the functions. The same exact thing is with your nervous system. If you want to it will do a pretty decent job on its own, but if you want to feel at your best for all the time, you need to train your nervous system. And one of the best ways to do that is with HRV breathing. So the way this works, resonance frequency breathing is 4 seconds inhale, 6 seconds exhale, and without holding. The way this works is that it's essentially you are able to maximize the amount of heart rate you're going to, like you maximize your beats per minute on the inhale, and you minimize your BPM on the exhale.
Okay.
Just like think about pushing a swing with a child. There are different ways you can push the swing, and like you can push it with bursts. You can kind of like push it once every so often, but it's not really going to be the most optimal way to do it. You need to find the perfect way in which it allows you to achieve the maximum altitude on the way up and the maximum descend on the way down. And this is what HRV breathing does. So 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out without holding. And you do that for about 10 minutes a day. Preferably, the way I like to do it is at night.
Okay.
And yeah, it increases your HRV. Any questions on this stuff here?
No, I think that makes sense.
Sauna. Since you're living here, you have sauna ready at night. Just doing sauna will improve HRV, will improve your response to stress, but also help you get better and deeper sleep. We're chewing nicotine gum right now, so appropriate stimulant use. Nicotine and caffeine. This will increase cortisol levels, but this will also impact the fight or flight and rest and digest thing that I talked about before. If you're on stimulants all the time, then you're going to have a more difficult time winding down at night, which will affect your sleep. So around 2 to 3 hours before bed, maybe 4, stop with nicotine. Caffeine 10 hours before bed, longest, and not every day.
Yeah.
Let's go to the supplements real quick. Obviously, all of them are specifically for liver, for testosterone, for kidney function, and for inflammation. Tadka, the OG of liver health, it breaks down bile acids, heal liver enzymes. This will support liver and kidneys, this liver function. Acetyl L-carnitine is something that will make your androgen receptors more sensitive. As a result of that, with the same amount of testosterone, you will have essentially more benefits. It will have more functions, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Citrus bergamot, it breaks down the bile stones and supports bile production and flow from the liver. NAC is the king of antioxidants in your body, helps with liver, helps with inflammation, as we saw above. There are some markers of inflammation, so taking those things will 100% help. This is the #1 supplement for kidney support. So if we're talking about this or creatinine, then it will 100% help with kidneys. Tongue and alley. It increases specifically the markers that we want to increase, LH, as well as steroid enzymes, and it's also anti-SHBG. SHBG is like a protein that the total testosterone goes and binds to. So in most cases, decreasing SHBG will free up more testosterone, and so you will have higher free testosterone. C-staunch increases luteinizing hormone. Butia superba increases dihydrotestosterone, DHT. Do you know what DHT is?
No.
It's another form of, it's an androgen hormone. It's like testosterone, but it's like the more potent form of testosterone. It's like very important for libido, for mood, for strength. It's like testosterone and steroids.
Okay.
Shilajit. This is also really important because we want to improve FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and this increases FSH. It also improves your mitochondria and just gives you more energy. Tribulus increases DHT. Magnesium will be super key for you, not only because of sleep, but also because of stress management. The magnesium stores in your body, and generally magnesium, it has a bidirect link with stress levels, not like physical stress, but also mental stress. The more stressed you are, the lower your magnesium stores are. Stress depletes magnesium, and you cannot go wrong with supplementing with extra magnesium. Also for testosterone, vitamin D3 and K2. Not taking vitamin D3 on its own, but K2 for proper storage of the vitamin D3. Otherwise, you might risk of calcification. And then, again, like vitamin D3 is more of a pro-hormone than an actual vitamin, so it's really going to increase your testosterone, like how you feel hormone levels-wise. Taurine. I'm pretty sure you've heard about taurine, but most people think that it's like the Red Bull thing, like energy-wise, but it's actually everything. It's anti-stress, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-anxiety, but also it's a testicular antioxidant as well. As a result, increases testosterone. This here is also a big needle mover for you because it binds to iron and lowers down ferritin as a result. However, don't take it more than 3 to 4 weeks. And if you're taking the potent, which is phytosome, don't take it more than 2 to 3 weeks max. I've done this mistake in the past. What you will realize is because it lowers down your iron, your ferritin, in the mornings when you go to the gym, you feel kind of dizzy. You feel like the symptoms of low iron. So if you do take that to optimize ferritin levels, you need to take this about like for 3 to 4 weeks max. But it's really
and then stop and start taking it again like 6 months later, or what's the?
Yeah. You don't really need to be taking this long term, unless you have a severe allergy. It's really good for allergies. But for the main reason of ferritin levels, 3 to 4 weeks. After that, you can kind of cycle on and off every couple of months.
Okay.
But I would mainly test again, see the baseline, and see if you need to take more.
And apart from this one, all the other recommendations are more long term, so you should kind of build into the daily.
Yes. Let me see which other one is not. Acetyl L-carnitine, also it's a nuance, is it increases. Acetyl L-carnitine, one nuance thing about acetyl L-carnitine is that it increases TMAO production, which is something your gut bacteria make when they're stressed, and this can actually harm your heart. So in order to kind of mitigate this, you need to be taking this with garlic extract. So I don't know if you've heard of alpha GPC. It's like a supplement for focus. Usually you need to be supplementing this with garlic extract. So let me note this down for you. Acarcara boosts LH. Cordyceps increases LH. Boron glycinate, again, the same thing as dates, which is essentially in the supplement form. Anti-SHBG, it frees up more of the total testosterone so that your body can use it for the main benefits. And then zinc, it helps the conversion from testosterone to DHT. So essentially it indirectly increases your DHT. So I think there are more supplements that you can take, particularly for sleep. But as a baseline, I think this is a pretty good stack to have right now to optimize all the markers that we saw above, but as well as your testosterone levels. So, what do you think about the holistic view of all the things that we covered so far?
Yeah, no, I think that that makes sense. So I should jump on a lot of these and then also use the multivitamins and omega-3s that I already have.
I wouldn't say like I don't think you should be taking the multivitamins because there are a lot of proprietary blends of like vitamin B12 as well. Like
Okay.
I think you should specifically target with the supplements that I gave here instead of multivitamin that includes everything under the sun. Just because you can control the dosage. Because sometimes multivitamins don't have enough vitamin D3, and if you take enough multivitamins so that you can hit the vitamin D3, you might overdo it in some other
Right.
vitamins, which is not really the most ideal situation in most cases. So that's why it might seem a decent amount of supplements, but again, we're trying to optimize all of this here, and mostly mental performance. Once you do all of those things that I give you today, you're going to have more drive, you're going to have more motivation, you're going to be able to put on more muscle better, you're going to recover better, you're just going to feel at a much better baseline, mental performance-wise, focus-wise, motivation-wise. So what are you planning to do with all this new, I guess, with the big performances you're going to achieve? What are you planning to funnel it into?
Yeah, funneling it into primarily work, and then secondary to athletic performance and aesthetics. And it seems like with all this stuff, we can hopefully do both of those at the same time, which is my goal. And yeah, also one more thing for the blood testing. So would you recommend like getting a new test 6 months later after trying out this supplement stack?
Yes.
And making all of these changes?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Perfect.
And we're going to see your new testosterone baseline. We're going to see how all those supplements affected all these markers here, especially after sticking to the fundamentals, which is sleep, the diet, training, stress management, like protocols, as well as the supplements. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see your testosterone level. I'm 100% sure your testosterone is going to be as close to the 4 digits as possible. I mean, I did majority of those things, and I went from a similar level to 1160. So that helped me tremendously.
From using all the supplements and optimizing all the fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff to optimize the fundamentals.
Right.
So my sleep quality is dialed in for 90% of the time. So I think for me, that's the biggest needle mover, because I went from sleeping for 8 hours to allowing a bedtime for like 9 hours, as I said here.
Right.
Which has been huge for my REM sleep in particular.
So you'd say in terms of improving the numbers from the blood test that maybe 80% of those improvements could be seen just from working on the fundamentals, and the supplements will kind of help with the additional, or?
Yes, 100%. 100%. But like the extra 20% is powerful.
Yeah.
The extra 20% is powerful. But I'm curious as to why you're asking those questions. Do you feel like those supplements are, you're not a big fan of taking all those supplements, or how do you feel?
No, I'm open to taking all of them. I'm just trying to figure out what is the priority and what is the attack list kind of hierarchy, so I can focus on what's most important first and nailing that in before kind of moving down the list. Because I think for me, like what I've learned about habit formation is that if I want to establish a new routine in my life, or make sure that I'm upkeeping something that I want to do every single day, it's hard for me to do a lot of things at once because of how chaotic my life already is. So if I can kind of pull those most important levers first, like maximizing my sleep quality and then moving over to diet, and just kind of do it in more of an order. I'll try to do as much as I can at once to make that shift, but if I can also have kind of a priority order in my head, it'll help me to get the ball rolling faster and more effectively.
For sure. Look, I'm kind of like going over those things with you because I know that you have a pretty good baseline. So I mean, the supplements and all the other implementations, the cherries on the cake, are things that work. We know they work. So you don't need to have an approach of, I'm just gonna try and do the fundamentals first to see what I can get, and then after that I'll implement the supplements.
Right.
Because it's more of a thing that the more you can do, the better. It's just a matter of, I think the hardest thing to logistically stick to is the sleep stuff.
Yeah.
The routine and the sleep. If you're able to do that, it's easy to swallow pills and take the supplements.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
That's true.
You just put them in you just optimize, prep them all together, and you just swallow pills and eat the food. It's not really hard. The hardest thing to nail down, from my experience, is gonna be figuring out the perfect sleep schedule that gives you enough wiggle room to work, gym, and life.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be,
Okay.
I think, the biggest lever you can pull. But it's 100,000% gonna optimize a lot of the markers, even sleep in and of itself.
Perfect.